I'm gonna slow down. It was pointed out to me yesterday that I go a little too fast. So my name is Misha. I'm not a doctor, a physician, a nutritionist, any of that. I'm just a woman who got really sick, got better when I stumbled on a natural system that helped me get off of all my medications. And as a result, I started getting better from a number of different disorders and issues. And not even live over on TikTok yet. So we're going to start that all over again. Good morning, everybody. This is Misha, and welcome in this morning. We're going to talk about the thyroid this morning. It's a complex conversation, and so have some grace with me, if you will, because just remember, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a physician, I'm just a normal woman who got really sick, got a lot better by stumbling on a simple system that's plant food based, and I started diving into why everything was getting better for me when that's the only thing I changed. At the root was insulin resistance, and since then, as I learned more about it, I've been coming on and talking about what I learned. So again, I'm not a doctor. I've never claimed to be. I'm just sharing the information I find. Now, one of the things I love is when everybody asks questions on my lives. That happened yesterday with two things. I'm going to focus on the thyroid because it's a really complex conversation, and we're not going to get to all of it today because I still have to go over all of the nuts and bolts, but we're going to talk a little bit about prostate as well, and then we're going to address any of these other issues that you guys have. Now, when you ask me questions, if I don't know, just like yesterday, I'm going to say, hey, I don't have the answer for that. Let me go do some research and we'll come back to it. So I'm going to I might block that person. Anyway, so let's just do that. Let's just agree to that. If you ask me questions this morning that I don't fully understand yet with the thyroid, I'm going to admit to it. I'm going to be making some links based on the things I've learned over the last day and just how my mind works. Some of it's very science backed. Some of it is my mind making connections. So let's dive in and talk about the thyroid and insulin resistance and why your metabolism is off and all of these things. And it includes autoimmune disease, and it gets really complex. So I'm going to try and take my time. Before I get started, guys, when I go fast, I would love for everyone to understand autism ADHD means my mind works differently. When I listen to shows, I often listen to them at 1.5 or 1.75 in order for me to be able to get through them. So I very rarely listen to things at a slow pace. It's unbearable to me. So that I talk fast. And I appreciate when people tell me that I'm going too fast or whatever so I can slow down. So I'm going to try to slow down. Please, if I'm going too fast, just speak up and say something and let me know so that I can slow down, because that's my world. It's just like boom, 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 boom. But I know it's not everyone's world, and I'm here to get information to people. All right, back to insulin resistance and the thyroid. I would love to go over insulin resistance really super quick. I learned some things this morning and yesterday that are just kind of completing the picture for me, and it's really eye-opening. But what I normally talk about is that insulin is I still feel this is true, right? I talk about insulin as that it's an energy transport, getting the energy to the cells, and it kind of unlocks the cells to allow the energy in. But there's another hormone that really regulates that as much, if not more, and that's your thyroid hormones. So then we get confused between TSH, T3, T4, all of that. We're going to kind of go over some of that this morning and hopefully help shed some light on those things and help everybody's understanding of those three things, and then how insulin and and the thyroid are working together or combating each other, making each other worse. So let's dive in. When I talk about insulin resistance, by and large, I talk about it as in our food is we're eating too much too often. It's a glucose regulation problem, right? Our food is turning into sugar in our system, and that inundation of sugar is causing the problem. So what happens when you have somebody who's done keto, who's done very low carb, and still is having problems with weight and metabolism. Then we have to look at the thyroid. So here it ties in more to where I talk about that it's more about your hormones than calorie restriction. And the more I learn and the more I read, the more of these specialists who actually understand metabolism and this intricacy between thyroid and cortisol and insulin, which are all hormones, will tell you that that severe calorie restriction is damaging each and every one of those. So that super, like restricting calories and all of that is not the best route. We're going to go over the thing that I did that helped. We're going to go over the things I did that helped. We're going to go over how all of it's linking as much as I can this morning. It's not going to be perfect today because I'm still learning and putting the pieces together in my head. Again, I'm just a normal woman like you guys. Okay, so thyroid is an energy regulator. Insulin, we're just going to talk about it like this. And insulin is an energy transport. Thyroid is an energy regulator. Well, it's what happens if somebody's got low carbohydrate intake, but they're still having problems. Then is it really the insulin? And when we come in and people say, oh, I'm on a low carb diet, I can't lose weight, I'm having all these issues, is it the proper thing to look at them and say, you're lying to me? You didn't tell me the truth about everything you're eating. And this is really helpful to me too, because I've worked with a lot of people who are reasonably eating super low carbohydrate. They're eating high proteins. They're doing all the things that I normally suggest, and they're still having problem. So you guys, if you're still having problems, maybe we need to look at the thyroid. So we talked about TSH, I mentioned it, T3 and T4. Let's look at those things. TSH is a Q. It's a thyroid stimulating hormone. It doesn't actually do anything in your thyroid. It's cueing in your brain, your hypothalamus, for you to produce something called T4. And I'm going to get the name of T4 wrong, so I'm just not going to even say it. But so you have this bump up of T4 stimulated by TSH saying, hey, we need thyroid hormone. Thyroid is struggling, we need hormone. So much like I talk about insulin and estrogens and testosterone. So testosterone is the beginning for those hormones, and it gets converted into estrogen. What we need to know with the thyroid is that you're starting with T4, and then the body's converting it to T3. So if your T3 levels are low and your body has plenty of T4, you're having a conversion problem of taking the T4 and making it into the T3. The specific actions of those, you guys, I'm not a specialist, so we're going to come back to that on another live, but that's the problem. So when you're looking at those labs, and a lot of doctors are just really reading your TSH, which is just a stimulating hormone, but it doesn't say anything about the actual hormones that are affecting your thyroid. So why are they looking just at TSH and not at your T3, T4 levels? That's why when I've been working with Dr. Jones, one of the first things I appreciated with him was he looked at the whole panel and he was like, hey, it looks like this is a little bit low. Let's get those thyroid levels up, although they were in normal range. Like one of the doctors that, I think it was Stan Ekberg that I was listening to, said that the range for thyroid, and I've always thought this, is huge. So you may just barely be in the end of, or in the bottom of the thyroid hormone, and the doctor is going to be like, oh, you're in range, it's good. But what they need to do, and what Dr. Jones, who I've been working with, does, and I've got something itching my back here, is he looked at it and said, look, in combination with this being at the lower end of the thyroid spectrum, and you still having problems with weight and these other things, we need to look at the thyroid regulation and not just that it's in normal range, you're okay. How does all of this relate to insulin resistance? It's again, it's a long story, so we're going to go there. Our cells go through, I had to write it down, you guys. I had to write it down. Cell danger response is what one of the doctors was talking about this morning. I took notes. So cell danger response happens when there's damage in our cells or there's substances in our cells that are causing danger. In that response, the cell wall stiffens up. When that stiffens up, of course, it's not going to allow the transport of insulin. So now your insulin resistance is going higher, but it's also reducing the amount of T3 inside the cell. So now you may have normal thyroid levels throughout the body, but your cell, just like insulin resistance, may not be responding to it. And insulin resistance and thyroid, hypothyroid, are very closely linked. When you have insulin resistance, it can exacerbate hypothyroid, and hypothyroid can actually make you insulin resistant by not allowing energy into the cell. So when the cell senses danger, it's going to tighten up. Remember that. Now the receptors are not there. Why does it do that? So what's happening is the cell is protecting itself. There's something inside the cell that it doesn't want to overtake in the rest of the body. So the cell is trying to starve off that something, that danger inside the cell, so that it doesn't grow and get rampant in the body. So now it's resistant to thyroid, but it's also resistant to insulin. So if thyroid's regulating your metabolism, the way you use energy, and you're not able to get it into the cells, are you going to have problems with weight and a number of the same issues that you have with insulin resistance? Puffy face, excess fat, moods, headaches, all of that. Yeah, when you look at the list of problems with thyroid and the list of problems with insulin resistance, they're very closely related, even though they can be caused very differently. So if you've been around for a minute, you've heard me talk about things like, I talk about the glucose regulation a lot, and that still for me is a big piece. We've got to be getting the glucose regulated, but I'm not talking about not eating fruits and vegetables. I'm talking about starting to pay attention to the refined carbohydrates we're eating. They come along with a lot of toxins. That toxic load can cause response in your cells. Now you're having problems. So am I a proponent of eating as much whole foods as possible? Absolutely, I am. And we need to understand that this cellular damage that's happening because of all of this toxic environment we have, pollutions in the air, pollutions in our food, all of that is causing more damage in the cells. This is not my tea this morning, you guys. I've already had my tea. This is my electrolytes, and I use Element. I'm not a distributor for them. I just like them. So this is electrolytes. So let's go back a couple of steps in this little discussion this morning, because this isn't going to be a perfect discussion. Remember, I'm learning right along with you guys. But when we look at the conversion of T4, remember I said you have to have T4 to convert into T3. So number one, if your thyroid is, or your hypothalamus, TSH, is not stimulating enough T4, obviously you're not going to have enough T3 converted. So there's one problem. We're not going to talk about that. But if you're converting T4 to T3, where does that happen? My link should be working. Whenever I check it, let me go online and check it. When I check it, it's absolutely working. So if you need to message me and I can get it to you in a private message, I can try and put it here in the chat, but oftentimes TikTok blocks it. So let's take a look and see if I can find that. All right. So where that conversion of T4 to T3, remember thyroid, I just want you guys to remember, thyroid is your energy regulator. It tells your body how to use the energy. Insulin is transporting the energy. The thyroid is telling your body how to use it. So if you're not converting T4 to T3, where's that block holding up? So this is where, in the research I've done, I haven't found an answer, but my mind is making the links. The liver is what's converting that T4 into T3. So if you have insulin resistance and you're damaging your liver because of high glucose levels and high whatever, that can cause problems with the ability to convert T4 into T3. So if it's not happening properly in the liver, this is where I link into insulin resistance. Then, Houston, we have a problem. Is that all of the problem? No, it's not. I'm not going to make that claim. But for me, when I look at all the things that you guys hear me talk about doing besides the system, I'm talking about helping my health. And this is why I do some of the things that I do. So I'm going to put this link in and see if it works here. If you guys see that link, let me know. Let me put it in over here as well. Okay. So did you guys see the link I just put in? Does everybody see that? So when we're talking about hypothyroidism and insulin, I'm still like, there are still pieces I haven't put together yet that I haven't found all the links. I'm getting this big piece here and I'm getting this big piece here. And so I'm trying to get it all put together so we can understand it a bit better. So again, this is going to be imperfect, but I promise to talk about it. But, so having a healthy liver is going to be really important to this whole thyroid regulation problem. So if your liver is dysfunctioning, and like my liver was so bad that I lost my gallbladder, well, is there any wonder why I was also suffering with hypothyroid when my body couldn't convert those hormones? And then there's the insulin dysregulation in my brain that's already jacking with how my hypothalamus is working. So maybe my body wasn't even getting the cues to make the T4 for the liver that's damaged to convert it into T3 in the first place. So that's where I go with it. And so for me, with dealing with insulin resistance and the thyroid, I'm not saying that it's the whole picture, right? I'm saying that if I can mediate the negative responses that are causing disorder, then I have a better chance at health. And that's likely what happened to me. Now, do I still have some excess weight on? Yes, I do. I'm very aware of that. But I'm battling with no gallbladder, which increases insulin resistance and decreases thyroid function anyway. And so now we're dealing with all of that. So when people say, I say that the system that I use is end all be all. No, it's not. But what it is it's a building block in this whole system of getting your health back. Now, with thyroid and insulin resistance, I want you to understand it's not always just about the glucose. Okay, it's not always about the glucose we're taking in. But one of the reasons I love the system is because it's slowing down the glucose delivery. So we're getting in glucose. We're just not hitting the bloodstream all at once with it and giving the body a chance to work with it. So I was really super happy this morning to listen in and understand, because most people think that going not only super low calorie, but super low glucose or carbohydrate is the fix, right? So all you're doing is you're adapting to a deeper response in the body. And yeah, the body can get glucose out of different things, but it doesn't mean that you have to do this super low, no carb or under 20 carbs a day eating to affect it, understanding that it may not be a glucose or an insulin regulation problem. It could be the glucose that's not getting into the cells because of a cell danger response. So with all of that, some of the other things, the crazy things I do, you guys, that I talk about, like intermittent fasting, and I do some longer fasting. Why? Because when I do the longer fasting, I'm allowing my body to clear out some of those damaged cells, some of the toxins that are causing problems within my cells, so that my cells can regenerate and work better. And as much as the system works, which you guys can find it in the link I dropped or in my profile. And again, if you're not able to access that link, just message me on whatever platform you're watching and we'll get it to you, okay? But I do all of these things to get all of this damage, or try to get this damage inside my body that's happened over 40 years of not knowing what was going on, fixed. So longer term fasting, and I'm not talking about the 7 or 10 day fasts that I did. I'm talking like 36 to 48 hour fasts are enough to start doing that cellular cleanup within your body and still make it manageable for you. Do I do it all the time? Well, I'm doing a 48-hour fast once a week now. I do struggle with that, honestly, because I'm not some saint, some like Puritan that everything is good. There was a lot of emotional stuff going on with my family this week. Nothing that is as far as like drama, just some things in our family that we don't talk about as much that are just weighing really heavy on our hearts. And so I have problems with ADHD and autism with impulse control. So over the last 2 weeks, did I eat as perfectly as I want to? I strove for it, but did I eat more sugar than I should? Yeah, I probably did. I'm not perfect either. So I like a middle of the road approach because I want it to be sustainable for everyone. If you're that person who can dive into carnivore or veganism or under 20 carbs a day, great. But most of us are just not there, right? Most of us live a real life. We have emotional stresses. We have days where we're really good. We have days where we're really bad. Not bad. We're as less perfect. And so we need something that's going to support us. That's why I love the system that I do. It's supporting me even when I have those days where I'm not so perfect. It's really supporting me on the days that I am more perfect, but it allows me to just be human, have emotions, have highs and lows, have faults, have all of that go on in my life. And thank you for all the loves and likes. By the way, thanks for everybody who's jumping in. We're talking about thyroid and insulin resistance today. So understanding, for me, one of the big cues I got out of everything that I was reading, listening to from thyroid specialists, from metabolic specialists and stuff in the last day, this is only one day, day one of me like, okay, and some of them I had to listen to like 3 times, like, okay, wait, I need this to sink in. I need to understand this. But this is what you're going to get from my understanding so far. So it's interesting to me because we all focus on the intake of glucose as being the problem with insulin resistance. And yet we have things like high cortisol levels that cause insulin resistance. Was the cortisol driven by sugar, or was it driven by the stresses in our life? You've heard me talk about other things can cause insulin resistance. I had a traumatic head injury when I was 15, and a few years later, I had PCOS and I was starting to have problems. So that traumatic head injury, as I learned, could have started the road to me being insulin resistant, damage, stress in the body. So daily stress, not getting enough sleep. And you guys hear me every Friday talk about putting the electronics down, about getting rest, about spending time with family. That's not just for your mental health, that's for your health. We have to unplug a little bit and reduce the stress in our body. We think that we're just scrolling all the time, right? We think that we're just going through these things and entertaining ourselves, but we're keeping ourselves plugged in. We're seeing stuff that either, for me, part of the reason I like to scroll is my ADHD. I like that dopamine hit, right? I like that response that my brain gets from seeing these exciting things. But it's putting us in a constant state of stress that's causing some cellular damage or cellular danger response that's causing the cells to shut down and not allow us to, so this part is interesting. So it's not just the conversion of T4 into T3, but when we have these stresses, surgeries, foods that we shouldn't have eaten, antibiotics, NSAIDs, this constant being plugged in, and the cell starts having that danger response and starts shutting down. One of the other things it does is it starts retaining less T3 within the cell. So now you have a metabolic problem going on. So now you have less energy usage within the cell. Again, the cell's trying to protect itself from too much energy coming in, feeding whatever that damaged response that it sees in the cell going on. Now you're having a glucose regulation problem. That glucose regulation problem, starting with the thyroid, is creating this space where there's too much glucose in the bloodstream. So it's cueing the pancreas to work harder. Now your insulin level is going up. So bottom line, insulin resistance can cause thyroid problems, but thyroid problems due to stress in our life can cause insulin problems because of a glucose regulation. Is it that you're eating too much glucose? So that's why I'm here, only one is, or peaches, however you want to be called. Just I find this stuff really interesting. I am not the big salesperson that everybody else is. Like, you got to buy this. We were talking about that this morning. Yes, I think you should buy the system. I think you should give it a shot. I think it does help most people with a majority of the problems. But I like to educate, I like to bring this information so you guys can make your own decisions, okay? So, and then here's the thing, you guys, as we go through this, I love these comments. Peaches, thank you for that. This whole this whole discussion this morning was spurred because somebody asked about the link between thyroid and insulin resistance yesterday, and I had to admit I didn't fully understand it. I knew there was a link, but I didn't have all the pieces. So I promised to do the research, come back and talk about it. That's why we're here. I did say we're going to talk about prostate. We'll get to that in a little bit because somebody asked. Now, when we do this stuff, I will eventually do a video kind of breaking some of this down and getting all of these concepts into a 1 to 3 minute video so that you can go find it. Also on TikTok, not so much on the other channels, and I will have to look at them, but on TikTok, there is a playlist at the top of my profile. So you'll find success stories, you'll find stuff on hypothyroid. So we're obviously going to add this in. You'll find stuff on the tea that I drink every morning and the system. You'll find stuff on a number of like heart problems, PCOS. So if one of those is your issue, those playlists are going to be being filled up more and more. Please go there and look through the playlist that applies to your life. And then when you have questions, ask. So I'll go do the research and I'll try to bring it back to you. Oftentimes I will cite the papers in those short videos so that you understand it's from science. I'm not just talking about, oh, I talked to my brother-in-law and he said. Most of the stuff that I come back to you guys with is from reputable doctors and papers from the NIH that they're referencing also. So let's understand that. So that's a very broad and very overview of thyroid. They work together. So I'm going to encourage you, if you have thyroid issues or you think you may have, find an endocrinologist or a doctor who really understands the thyroid and all the functioning of it and is able to thank you, Carrie. She says she digs this foundational learning. Find someone who can actually look at the thyroid panels and understand the difference between TSH, T3, T4, and really look into those numbers and understand what's happening with you. Because again, you might have enough TSH, wherein your brain is telling you to produce enough T4. You may have enough T4 in your system, in your blood. You may have, because the thyroid, unfortunately, is read in the blood. But what you may be missing is that conversion of T4 into T3 and the utilization of the T3 in your cells. So those numbers can look good, but we need to put it together with the symptoms you have to understand that that there's a problem that needs to be addressed. And if they're just looking at the numbers, they're not looking at the symptoms and everything you've had. Or if you're going in and you're saying, I've been eating low carb, I've been doing this, and they just look at you like you're lying to me, find another doc. Just go find another doc. Don't fight with them. Don't mess with them. Don't do more damage and more stress to yourself. Find someone who understands, who cares, and who's willing to listen to you and understand that not every overweight, metabolically disadvantaged person is lying about their diet. So you had your thyroid removed. Are you okay? I can't tell you if you're okay, Grammy. You need to go by your symptoms. And I don't know what the thyroid removal was for, if it was a cancerous thyroid, if it was any of that. You're probably on Synthroid. My personal opinion, I like the more natural versions of thyroid, like Armour or some of the compounded ones, a goiter. So it is interesting. So I was just listening to Dr. Stan Ekberg talk about it this morning. So goiter is really an iodine problem, not necessarily a thyroid problem. Your thyroid could be healthy and still have a goiter, and that's not helpful to you now, right? But if you had a goiter problem, it may have been that you were not getting enough iodine in your system, okay? So if they're just looking at, oh, they got this big goiter, and so there's something wrong with their thyroid, again, that's really damaging. They really should be looking at iodine dysregulation problem, that goiter would go down with if you were getting enough iodine in. I'm going to reach out to a friend of mine who had a really great source for iodine. And if I can get a link to that, I will try and get that on my recommendations page. Let me write down a note. She's a holistic practitioner, so but anyway, I just make sure that you're getting in enough iodine. If you're starting to see a goiter or those thyroid problems, you probably are looking at an iodine deficiency, which was crazy to me when we talk about, so then we link, right? We go back and we say, okay, there's this thyroid issue. And then I usually talk about heart a lot. And then we talk about, they're telling you to regulate salt. Well, how are you getting an iodine without proper amounts of salt? So it's a vicious cycle. So sometimes supplementation has to happen in today's world because, again, I'm going to link back to the fact that our foods have been messed with. So we're not getting the nutrition we should be getting out of our food, and it's causing a number of these issues. One of the reasons I love the system, by the way, if you're interested in the system, I'm going to talk about it in a second, but just go to my profile, tap on that, or tap on the link up here. When the white box comes up, tap on that. You'll see the link. I did put it back in the chat, and it is working. So it may be that you need to clear your browsers or any of that to get it to work, or restart your phone, whatever, because the link is working. So the system that I use, by the way, I normally have a tea in the morning. Again, I'm doing electrolytes right now because I already had my tea. I've been up since 5. So a tea in the morning that helps with regulation of my metabolism. It's helping me burn fat for fuel. It's helping me with mental energy and clarity. And then I have a pre-meal drink that's fiber, phytonutrients, and vitamins and minerals before I eat, every time I eat, to help with the glucose regulation. So Carrie says, there's been a couple of comments I didn't read out. Light Feather says, I have thyroid eye disease, had your thyroid removed. So you guys that have had your thyroid removed, you still, yeah, there's a lot of that. It's just like the gallbladder. When it kind of drives me crazy. I think there are instances when some of these things, if they're so damaged and diseased, they need to be removed. But I think we need to have a better understanding of what's going on. And I am not a thyroid expert. But I think we need to slow down. We, being the medical profession, needs to slow down with this just removal of stuff, because it's the quick fix, right? Got a goiter? Let's take your thyroid out instead of addressing the fact that you need more iodine. Okay? And then again, when we're looking at thyroid panels, the TSH is probably not the thing they should be measuring. So if that's all they're measuring for you, understand that TSH, again, TSH is just a cue from your hypothalamus for your body to produce hormones. What we need to see on the other side of it, not just the TSH level, is do you have enough T4? Do you have enough T3? And is your body utilizing it? And there's not really a good test for those. So looking at symptoms is the best way to do that. And they bulk. Find another doctor. If you're, okay, and here's the other thing, you guys. I'm going to encourage, so just because I try to be very, very straightforward with stuff, right? I'm working with Dr. Jones. You'll find his protocol in my link tree. He does do some of the peptides that I don't like. So that's where we differ. But he's been really great. There are, you can do saliva hormone testing, and saliva hormone testing, from my time in hormone clinics, is better than blood testing. Okay. You can do those saliva kits at home. They're usually 4 times a day to measure your hormones throughout the day and get your thyroid levels from that, and then get it to someone like Dr. Jones, and have them look at it, who's going to look at your symptoms as well as the the numbers on the paper and say, okay, this and this looks okay, but you're having these symptoms, so maybe it's not okay for you. It's in range for the general public, but for you, it may be low, it may be high. You have to have someone who can understand and is willing to look at that. So Carrie, really, I don't know what that one was. I didn't catch it in time because I was talking. So will you clarify for me? You waited 3 years to have it removed and tried everything, even was told the thyroid would burn itself. So you can end up with some autoimmune disease. Now we're going to link into something else right now because of that comment. I do want everybody to understand one of the things that I did run into in all of this listening to doctors, reading stuff online and in the books that I have laying all over my house about the thyroid, in particular with insulin resistance, is, there we go, autoimmune disease. So remember I talk a lot about the gut and keeping the gut balanced. I started talking about all the things I do to help my health, to get me back. My thyroid is functioning more properly. Is it all just the system? Maybe not. Maybe it's some of the other things I've done for my liver and whatever. But autoimmune diseases, more and more are talking about that it's coming from this dysbiosis in the gut. This is again why I lean on the system that I use so much, because it's helping with the flora in the gut. It's helping you get the more balanced gut microbiome, which is going to allow a lot of these things to heal. When your gut is inflamed and diseased, it starts leaking that message out to everything else. Then it gets into things like your thyroid, and your body's like, oh, there's a problem in the thyroid. There's Houston, we have a problem. And so it starts attacking the thyroid, autoimmune disease. So sometimes your thyroid seems high, sometimes it seems low. Where's it all coming from? Well, let's take a look at the gut. How inflamed is your gut? What's going on with the microbiome in your gut? Fiber Fueled is one of the books I'm reading right now as well, and I want to get some more information out from that, because there's a big link between this dysbiosis or negative gut bacteria and all of this autoimmune and the messages that are going out to the rest of the body. So unfortunately, for those of you guys who've had thyroid removed and whatnot, we can't ever get that back, right? We know that, and so I'm not trying to like make anybody feel bad, but what I do want to say is, even when people ask me about dialysis and kidney stuff, my opinion, my viewpoint is, if the system that I'm doing is helping my body before I get to that stage, you've now gotten to that stage. We still have a root problem, right? We still have a root problem that got you there. That root problem is still there. And just because it caused that problem doesn't mean it's done. It's just going to find something else to cause a problem with. So in my mind, even when you're already on dialysis, you've already had all these other things, taking care of the body and getting the rest of it healthy is paramount, right? And those of us who've had things like my gallbladder was removed, now I have to be really more conscious about what I'm doing and why. So the system is the core, the basis of everything I do. A tea in the morning, a pre-meal drink before I eat anything. So that's helping me with glucose regulation, not like removing glucose, but the glucose regulation. That's helping my body start to deal with it all much better. But on top of that, like right now I'm doing a cleanse. This is, I don't know, is it about the sixth time I've done the cleanse? Because I do it twice a year. 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth time I've done the cleanse. I do it, and I did a video on this, and somebody was like, we don't poop our fat out. Well, no, I know that. The video was kind of tongue-in-cheek because I heard some fitness influencer talking about cleanses, and it was like, stop doing cleanses. They don't do anything for you. You're not going to poop your fat out. We don't do a cleanse because we're trying to poop our fat out. I do a cleanse to help get some of this toxic waste in my cells out, so that my cells aren't having this negative response, so that my liver isn't struggling. And a healthier liver, as I now know, I didn't know this before this morning, that it's a healthier liver is going to be able to convert that T4 into T3 much easier. T3 is what gets in your cell and allows you to have the energy utilization and the energy regulation or thermostat inside your cell. So taking care of my liver is paramount. So yes, I've done castor oil, I've done all the stuff. cleanse twice a year to help my cells clean up from all of this toxins. Because I can't even count how many surgeries I've had, just from injuries, from whatever. I mean, I fell and tore my thumb off, had to have surgery to replace it. I've had 3 joint replacements. I've had, broken bones. I've had all this stuff. So I've been in and out of surgery my whole life. That means there's a whole lot of toxins built up in this body. So the cleanse is helping me get that stuff out. The intermittent fasting or the extended fasting of 36 to 48 hours is helping me get that stuff out. Those are the things I talk about because they actually work, and there actually is some science behind how they work. Somebody said the other day there is no science that intermittent fasting works, and yet there is science out there. If I will try to remember, I have so many videos to do, but I will try to remember to do a video on and citing some of those sources that intermittent fasting actually does work. And plus, there's like a ton of, like Dr. Mindy Pelz really recommends intermittent fasting. Dr. Fung recommends it. Dr. Bickman recommends it. Dr. Pradeep recommends it. All of these doctors who are talking about metabolic health recommend it, and they're basing it on science, but they're also basing it on what they're seeing in their day-to-day practices. You waited 3 years for thyroid would burn itself. I don't understand the comment that thyroid would burn itself unless it was autoimmune and they were just saying that the body was going to attack it. I don't understand what they were getting at with that. You stay hot all of the time. Carrie, that could be thyroid, that could be age, that could be dysregulation from insulin resistance. Again, for me, let's deal with the things we can deal with, clear that up. And I know you're starting, right? So deal with the simple things first, and then we can start to have your doctor, not me, have your doctor take a look at what's left. Look, I used to say this one all the time, and I'm going to say it again this morning. If we took and we went into a hoarder's home, and we knew that there was structural damage, we knew that there was a leak going on somewhere, we knew that there was a problem, we're going to try and address the leak, but we can't really see the leak because there's so much crap in and around the house. You just can't see it. You can't see the floors. You can't see the walls. You can't see where there's a crack that might be coming in. You can't see all of that stuff. So you got to clean out that hoarder's home so you can start to see the structural damage. That's kind of what I'm talking about with the system. Do I think it cures everything? No, but I think it's like a clean sweep, helping you with a majority of the things, and then getting that root cause of a majority of things out of the way. Now, when you have leftover problems, you can clearly look at it and be like, oh, okay, we're focusing on this now. We're not running around dealing with 10 or 12 different things. We have one thing we can focus on. Does that make sense to everyone? This is part of why I love the system. It's not just about the glucose regulation for me. It is about helping my body deal with things so that as I clear out symptoms like sleep apnea, joints that were failing, high blood pressure, edema, neuropathy, bleeding teeth and gums, eyesight failing, hair falling out, skin tags, dark skin patches, all of that stuff gets cleared away. Now we're left with, hey, I'm still resistant to losing some weight. Let's take a look at the thyroid. Let's take a look at what else is going on that could be causing this dysregulation in your body. Now the doctors have an easier time seeing the picture because all the clutter is removed. Okay, so part of me dealing with insulin resistance is removing the clutter. Does that make sense? Yeah, surgeries, you guys, every time you go under surgery and have trauma to the body, it's increasing cellular damage and it's increasing your propensity for insulin resistance. Now, does it mean that you shouldn't go have surgery? No. It just means that we need to understand the damage that's happening as a result of. Okay? Cortisol levels stink. You also had your body shake inside, so many symptoms. Yeah, so Carrie, so you know what? The thing too with clutter and stuff, let's talk about that really quick. Because I go through times where with ADHD where my house is super clean. Like yesterday I was like, Misha, you're not taking care of your house. I went through and I wiped down all the counters, I swept all the floors, I vacuumed, I did all of that stuff. I woke up this morning, it feels much better. the clutter in your house is just a symptom of clutter in your brain. And for me, clutter in my brain is a symptom of the insulin resistance and not getting glucose and energy to my brain. So I start to fix that. I utilize the tea. I have more energy, more clarity. Things don't just feel, I don't know how you feel, but sometimes life just feels super overwhelming. Like I don't want to escape because I love my life, but it just feels like a hurricane inside my head and I really can't focus on anything. The tea helps me with that. And then it allows me to have a more normal house. And I've had to have some habits of, making sure that I don't just drop clothes and not pick them up. Even when I do the laundry, I hang it up. It's a conscious effort for some of us, but yeah, a cluttered house is just a symptom to me, another symptom of some neurological disorder that is oftentimes linked to insulin resistance and glucose regulation problems. I'm going to look at my notes really quick from the thyroid because something just triggered. There was, and I think this is important. So this is what he was talking about this morning. So what he was saying is this hypothyroid issue. I thought I saw a bug, and I don't really have bugs in my house, so that freaked me out for a second. It wasn't. Okay, so hypothyroid causes insulin resistance almost as much as excess glucose causes insulin resistance. We need to understand that. And then, so that happens. What you've heard me talk about how, and Light Feather, I'm going to answer your question, but we talk about how this energy regulation is going on. Too much glucose hitting the bloodstream too much, our insulin goes up, cells are shutting down, all of that. Okay. So, but with the thyroid, part of what's happening is when we have this excess glucose, it gets turned into cholesterol. We understand that the excess sugar is creating excess cholesterol. Now, cholesterol is not bad. It does create neural pathways, so the way your brain functions. When we talk about it needing cholesterol, that cholesterol is allowing those pathways to build, so we do need some cholesterol. It also helps build cell membranes. Remember, I talk about fat and your muscle membranes. Well, cholesterol derived from some of this glucose is what gives your cell membranes their flexibility and their health as well. So glucose and cholesterol are not bad things. It's just when they're dysregulated that they're bad things. Okay, so I'm going to come back. Hey, Dale, when we talk about the tea, Light Feather, you said, yeah, so that's autoimmune hypothyroidism, most likely, Light Feather. I can't diagnose. I said that because in my understanding, if you're going hyper to hypo, that's one of the cues that it's like Hashimoto's. That autoimmune, again, we want to look back at the gut and making sure that the gut is cleaned up. The autoimmune, and there are, if you go to hypothyroid in my playlist, there are a couple of ladies up there whose stories are posted who had Hashimoto's and or hypothyroid, and they're not suffering from those symptoms now. Am I going to say the disease is gone? Nope. But I'm going to say that their symptoms are better regulated because everything is working in concert instead of like garage band banging on trash cans. Okay. Garage band. That's not a, garage bands are great, but okay. So the tea, it's in the system. So when you go to my profile, there's the top, go to my profile. When the white box opens up, go there. You'll see two red lights in my profile on TikTok. Click on the link below those. It's going to take you to my landing page, and let's look at it. So the tea is called Unamate. You really want to get it through somebody who's authorized to distribute it, because otherwise what's happening is you are not getting all the guarantees and stuff from it. So if you go to, let's take a look if I can get this pulled over. If you go to my TikTok profile, and let's turn this around. Take that down. Okay, so if you go to my TikTok profile and you see the red lights, right under that, there's that link. If it's not working for you, it's probably you just need to refresh, clear your cookies, restart your phone, but the link works. So then it's going to take you to this page. The system with the tea and the fiber drink, the pre-meal drink, is at the top. If you're just interested in the tea, they do have a 2-pack here where you can get it, and you get it at a discount, and you get the free shipping and stuff on subscription like you do with the full system. But that's where you're going to get the tea. Now, you're going to also see, you're going to see that I have some problems this morning. There we go. Okay, so you're going to see that I'm doing videos on the tea, because I think that people don't always understand why I love this tea so much and why it's so important in my health care, not sick care, because I'm taking care of my health now, not chasing my sickness. Why it's so important. So I'm going over 13 science-backed benefits of the tea, and those are going to be dropping. It's probably going to take 2 weeks to a month to get all of those out. But look for those, because those little 1 to 2 minute clips are going to give you an idea of why this tea is working so well and all the benefits, why we're calling it a superfood, and why it's so important to our health in a number of ways. I just covered antioxidants. We're going to be talking about energy. We're going to be talking about the central nervous system response. We're going to be talking about weight management, a lot of different things. Those are going to come out one at a time. You'll find them in the tea, the yerba mate tab in my TikTok, okay? So it will just give you a better clue as to why the tea is so amazing and why we're using it. So the gut is the key. Carrie asked, the gut is key. So let's come back to a couple of, okay, safe if you've had what I've had. Heather Lindstrom. I don't know what you've had, if you don't mind letting me know. So the system is just real food-based products. One of the things I'm going to talk about is energy in the videos that are coming up on yerba mate. And it's crazy because it does have a small amount of caffeine in it, but it has so many other things in it called adaptogens that it regulates how that caffeine acts in your body, and it helps with things like heart rate. But the system is safe outside of some like random allergies. The system is safe no matter what you're doing, what you've been through, what medications you're on. Doesn't interact with them, doesn't have any long-term adverse effects. So I would be interested to know what it is that you're trying to address. But yes, it's safe. We have babies whose parents give them some of it. I have my grandchildren as early as 3 and 4 years old. They were drinking the tea. I have 2 of my grandchildren on the full system to help with their ADHD and their prediabetes and some of the other things that were occurring early in life for them. My daughters are doing it. It's a family thing now because they've seen the change in my health. You guys understand that 2.5 years ago, what people don't know is I went from world champion athlete to I can't walk. At a walker, I had a cane. It was painful. It was slow going for me to go anywhere. I didn't want to leave the house because it hurt to go out and shop. And my kids were devastated and they were worried about me. And now I'm out running in the backyard, having sword fights with my grandson, having sword fights in the house with them, doing all these things that they thought I wasn't going to be able to do anymore. And it all came from this simple system: a tea in the morning, 2 pre-meal drinks, at 1 before I eat anything, doing some intermittent fasting and some other tips that I talk about as well. So it's the above. You've had almost everything listed except PCOS. So yeah, it's safe if you've had all of those. All of those things. So I don't remember. Let me read the list over here. So stubborn weight, I've had that. I've lost over 50 pounds. Brain fog, that's gone for me. Fatigue, I used to be like taking naps 2 to 3 times a day. By 1 o'clock in the afternoon or noon, I was so tired I felt like I was going to collapse. Cortisol dysregulation problem, it helped with that. Fibromyalgia, yes, I had the body-wide pain, helped with that. PCOS, well, by the time I found this, I was already postmenopausal, but still symptoms of the lingering stuff with PCOS, so it helped that. My hypothyroid, my hormones, my headaches, my sleep apnea, my diabetes, my arthritis, my vertigo, skin takes, melasma, hair loss, edema, neuropathy, My kidneys were having problem and my liver panels were getting way out of control. All of my numbers are in normal range now. So yes, I was just checking to make sure erectile dysfunction wasn't on there. So I can say this: I suffered with everything up there, and those are not my reality now. We're just dealing with some latent things that are, I feel like, caused because of damage from 40 years of insulin resistance and not understanding all of this sooner in life. So we're dealing with cleaning that up now. But yes, it's safe. If you have that, if that sounds like you, if that's been you, if you're concerned with those things. And here's the thing, you guys, with the system that I do, it has a 90-day money back guarantee. Do it for 90 days. Understand this is real food products that we're supporting your body with. Like for me, it was 40 years of damage. Would I expect that all to be reversed in a week, even in 4 weeks? No. Okay, I understood even with my blood pressure. My blood pressure started coming down. Did it normalize right away? No. It took about a year because remember, there's clogged arteries, there's arteries that have not been dilating like they should, there's cortisol issues, there's all of that. All of that has to come down so those things can happen. So please give it 90 days. Some people, depending on their health issues, it's taken a little longer to get to the deeper root causes. But if you know that you have better energy, you have these things going on, then why not give it the best shot you can? Okay. So long story. I don't know if the person who asked about prostate is on this morning. I didn't have time to dive into the prostate as much because I got so down the rabbit hole with the thyroid and all of the links between thyroid and insulin resistance and how thyroid can actually cause insulin resistance and the whole story about glucose regulation. And the good news that it's not all about glucose all the time. I still believe in regulating how it hits the bloodstream. That's going to help you. But prostate. Somebody asked yesterday, could insulin resistance affect prostate? I don't have the specific numbers, but there is a higher occurrence of prostate problems and prostate cancers with people who have elevated insulin levels. So people with healthier prostates have lower insulin levels. They're more insulin sensitive. People, men across the board who have higher insulin levels, insulin resistance, diabetes, prediabetes, are the ones who are more likely to have prostate problems and cancers. And cancer is not a word that I talk about a lot because it seems to be that one that gets me banned, but we're going to talk about it. So reading, it's over on the other table, but the companion book to this, The Obesity Code, Dr. Fung wrote one called The Cancer Code. Dr. Bickman deals with it in his book a bit about cancers as well. So they both talk about how insulin resistance is highly linked to cancers, especially cancers of the breast and cancers of the prostate. Am I going to say that it causes them? No. But is it like that light switch we've talked about so many times where maybe you're headed down that path and there's like that switch that has to get turned on? Insulin resistance can definitely be that switch. So Dr. Bickman talked about it as in two pathways. It's causing a state where there's too much sugar in areas of the body. Cancer loves to thrive on that. Cells are shutting down to using the insulin, and I have to go back and read what his other mechanism was, but he talked about two mechanisms where insulin resistance is increasing the risk of cancers, especially breast and prostate cancers. So yeah, there's a definite link between prostate problems and insulin resistance. I will try to do a short video and link some of those papers from the NIH on that. And we'll get that up in one of the playlists. Prostate's not one I deal with a lot. Most of my followers are women, but we want to take care of the men in our lives. Okay. All right. Any other questions, or is there something that anyone wants me to go over tomorrow? Tomorrow we'll be back. I'm here every Monday through Friday around 8 a.m. I'm really trying to get back to that 8 a.m. spot, but let me know if there's something you want me to expand on, talk about. I love doing the research. This research on the thyroid, which I'm going to go continue to do, was eye-opening to me. It helped fill in some gaps and open up my eyes to a little bit more about other mechanisms with insulin resistance and how the cells work. So you guys do me favors when you ask me questions. So if there's anything up there that you want to know about, let me know. In the meantime, if you're suffering with those things, let's talk about what insulin resistance looks like, can we, before I hop off? We already talked about what insulin resistance is, but how it's going to manifest in your body. There's a couple of ways that you can tell if it's you, even if your doctor's not wanting to test for it, and that you can just kind of easily do at home. Okay? Number one, if you have high blood pressure, if your blood pressure is 130/80 or higher, you're probably insulin resistant. There is less than 5% of hypertension is actually caused by things like viral or genetic problems. The other approximately 95% is caused by lifestyle and insulin resistance. So if your blood pressure is high, understand, get your insulin under control, and like for me and my daughter and so many others, your blood pressure can be normal again. Cardiologist Dr. Ahmed was on about a week ago. I'm trying to pull clips out of his little time with me, but my blood pressure is normally like 114/72 or something like that, 112/74, somewhere in that range. I asked him, what does that look like, doctor? He was like, that's a perfect blood pressure for your age. So no medications. All I've done is the system, and my blood pressure is in perfect range when it was like 180/150. Now, blood pressure is one. Some of the other ones we're going to talk about in the top five, my top five for insulin resistance, are skin tags and dark skin discoloration. Your skin is warning you. So if you have those dark patches, acanthosis or acanthosis nigricans under your arms, in your groin, around your neck, where your shoes are rubbing on your ankles, or just like on the back of your neck, you have someone who's loved that is having those problems. I saw it on my granddaughter's elbows, and then I told her mom we got to get her tested, and sure enough, she was already pre-diabetic. So those early warning signs can tell you if you're insulin resistant. By the way, it goes glucose regulation problem, too much insulin in your system constantly, to insulin resistance, to pre-diabetes, to diabetes. So it all falls in that same tree, all right? So skin tags, they are not just a sign of getting older. I started getting them in my 50s. I was like, oh, well, I'm a grandma. This is just normal. This is how it's going to be. Within 3 months of being on the system that I talked about, my skin tags were all gone. So there's specific actions why that happens. Skin tags, dark skin patches, those are 2 and 3. 4 and 5, the symptoms 4 and 5 that are at the top on my list are PCOS and erectile dysfunction. It's most likely if you have either one of those, PCOS related, polycystic ovarian syndrome, or erectile dysfunction for men, you have some sort of insulin resistance. And again, the system that I use has helped people get that under control. 5 things: hypertension, skin tags, acanthosis nigricans, or the dark skin patches, PCOS and erectile dysfunction. Now, okay, we're going to look at a couple of other things. So when we start looking at the list of symptoms and you start jotting these down, if you have one, it's, there's a good possibility that you're insulin resistant. There's a good possibility it could be something else. But if you have 2 or 3, then you're probably insulin resistant. If you're going 4, 5, 6, let's deal with your insulin resistance and see how much better your health can get, okay? Yeah, so, all right, I missed a couple of questions. I was trying to scroll down to them. There, for some reason, my feed isn't. You're so welcome, Carrie. She says, thank you for your time and consideration. You've got skin tags. Why is this blocking so many messages? And you've had them since you were in your 30s. So understand, can we talk about skin tags really quick, and then I'll go over some other symptoms, or let's finish the symptoms and then I'll talk about skin tags. So some of the other symptoms are if you have that belly that's bulging, like even if you're thin in other areas, but your belly is bulging and you kind of feel like you're pregnant. I'm just going to say my daughter-in-law has that. She's very aware she has that. She's very aware she's insulin resistant. Look, at people make their choices and do what they want to do. But that's happened with me too. That's visceral fat. Again, hypothalamus is cueing your body to put on more visceral fat. It's unhealthy to have too much. It's choking off your organs, and it's causing things like fatty liver and a number of other problems, gastroparesis, all of the stuff. That's a symptom of insulin resistance, that belly that's poking out, okay? So some other things would be if you're having constant migraines and headaches, if you're having fatigue all the time, if you're having brain fog, if you're having anxiety and depression, if you're starting to show signs of Alzheimer's. You guys want a clue? I'll give you a clue in just a minute about Alzheimer's. One of the early warning signs of it that has nothing to do with anything else I'm talking about, but it's kind of quirky, interesting. But those are all things. So headaches, body aches, joint pain, bleeding teeth and gums, uh, eyesight failing, hair falling out, hair, ladies, on your chin or your face. Those are all signs of insulin resistance. Mood dysregulation because your body's just not getting the proper amounts of energy. All those are signs of insulin resistance. So again, if you have one, it could be, but if you have 2, 3, 4, 5 of those, and most of us do have more than 5 of those, start taking care of your insulin resistance. The system I used is found in my profile. It's a tea I drink in the morning, a pre-meal drink before I have anything. Now we're going to come back to Alzheimer's first before I forget it. So an early warning sign of Alzheimer's, if you're having problems parking your car straight. Are you one of those people? I was having this problem where you park and you feel like you're straight and you get out and you look. And for me, this is my internal dialogue. I'm like, geez, Michelle, you sure parked like an ass today. And I'd have to get back in my car and repark so that I was straight. Not being able to park your car straight is a quirky but interesting sign that you're starting to have symptoms of Alzheimer's. Now, skin tags. Let's go back to skin tags. And we were talking about thyroid earlier, so welcome in everyone who's just joined. So, yeah, oh no, Carrie, right? It's time to get control of it, right? I'm so glad you found this, honey. It's going to make, and I say honey with not like demeaning, but in a very like warm and caring tone. So I have to be careful because some people take offense. But skin tags. What's happening with skin tags is we have skin cells called keratinocytes. When we have elevated levels of glucose in the system, whether it be from thyroid function or eating too much refined carbs, then we have this insulin rise, right? So insulin is a hormone of growth. So normally we talk about it in resistance as like the cells don't want it. And that's by and large true. But there are some cells who are going to take up excess insulin. So these keratinocytes are cells that will take up excess insulin. So now your body is producing excess skin cells, and they poke out in areas where you rub or you know, like under your arms, in your groin, on your neck, on your eyes. If you rub your eyes a lot, you start to get these skin tags. It's a hyperproduction of skin cells because of too much insulin. Start getting the insulin back under control. Start slowing down how much those keratinocytes are producing, and the skin tags start to go away. You don't have to have them cut off. You don't have to have them burned off. You don't have to have them rubber banded off. You don't have to have some magic potion lotion to put on them that they're just going to grow back in another place when those are gone. You just need to take care of the insulin and they will go away, and then they won't come back. I don't have any skin tags. I will be 60 this month, February, and I have not one skin tag on my body anywhere. I don't have the dark skin patches, the dark elbows, any of that. My elbows used to be dark from like behind my elbow all the way down to here, rough and scaly. Like shirts like this would catch on it. I was scrubbing and cleaning and putting lotion on them and shea butter. I usually use shea butter or coconut oil, and it wasn't fixing it. It's not a hygiene problem. It's an internal problem that means you have glucose dysregulation at the bottom line. So taking care of my insulin resistance helped all of that. I always used to look down at my knees, and thank you, Carrie. I actually look. Can I show you a picture? And I mean, for me, it's impactful. Maybe you guys can tell me. I don't. Let's see. I'm going to find this picture of me from before I started the system. This was me 2.5 years ago, you guys. Let's fix this. I'm of course, I'm addressing more and more with my health now, but to get to where I'm at now, it was really the system and intermittent fasting that made this change. So that was me 2.5 years ago. at 56, 57 years old. That was what I looked like then, and then you see what I look like now. So do I still show my age? Yes, I do. I have some wrinkling. I have, like, when I first lost weight though, I had a turkey neck, like this whole piece down here, the skin was just wobbling. It took time for that to like tighten up, and some intermittent fasting helped tighten that up. But yeah, so that was me 2.5 years ago. I can't imagine what I would look like today had I stayed on that path. And I don't do, you guys, my skincare routine kind of sucks. Like I don't spend a lot of time on my skincare. Would my skin look better if I did? Probably, but yeah, I try, but I don't always make it with skincare routines. So it's not like I don't do injections of any sort. I don't do super scrubs or gua sha. I would love to be doing those, but I forget a lot of those things. I feel like the things that I'm doing, like the Feel Great system, are that's as much as I can count on in a day. And yeah. Thank you for the compliment. Um, so yeah. So also, oh, we haven't talked about that. I haven't talked about IBS and stuff. It's getting time for me to go on to some other things, but IBS with this this gut dysbiosis, right? This microbiome that's off. It can cause things like Crohn's and IBS and gastroparesis. Gastroparesis is actually very common with people with diabetes. There's a number of actions besides the gut microbiome being shut down. The insulin receptors are being shut down, and you're not getting nerve firing properly. So the gut does not contract. The gallbladder can't contract properly. The stomach doesn't contract properly. Maybe you get acid reflux. Your intestines aren't contracting, moving food along, and now it gets blocked up and it gets hardened up, and then you have a problem which can be very damaging. So taking care of your gut, getting in prebiotics, fiber is key. As much as I'm doing videos on the tea, I'm going to be doing some videos on the benefits of fiber and why it's a big piece of my toolkit to help my health, so you can understand some of the benefits that you have in your body. Thank you, Carrie. She says I look sleek and shiny. I actually have a friend who knew me when I very first started, and she called last night and told me something similar, and I really, really appreciate that. Good morning, Jim. So it does make a huge difference, you guys. All of this has just been not just the glucose regulation, not just the insulin regulation. It's been about getting healthy from the inside out. So yeah, things like getting the liver healthy, helping my kidneys to function and utilize the hormones that it has to utilize properly, helping my thyroid, helping all of these other things, because that my body is not inundated with insulin resistance. Thank you. You know what? Jim, the Healthy Pit Master, you guys should follow him too. I stumble across, I don't spend a lot of time looking at other people who do the Feel Great system, but you come across my live a lot, and I always find something interesting in your videos. I just kudos to you, Jim. You do a great job educating, and I really like that. Hey, Ro. Yeah, Ro is also on the system. You guys are all here today. And also go follow Ro. Ro, I saw some of your videos. I was on your live yesterday. You guys, we've all had the system, and it's really changed our lives. And Jim and Ro, I would really love to get stories, and I'd be happy to share mine with you guys for your page, but I would love to get your stories to share with everybody here. Is it okay if I reach out to you later and see if we can get those videos, and let's share? Because here's the thing, we're all doing the system, we all are distributors for the system, but at the core, what really is happening is we all want to help people get their health back. Okay, we're all committed to helping people understand this thing called insulin resistance. Ro, you were doing a great job educating on it when I was on your live this morning. Jim, you always do a great job. But we're all here to help people get better and get their health back, so you don't have to suffer like we were doing before the system. Okay, yes, I do have your number. I will reach out. I do so much education and I forget to get stories so that people can understand that it really works. And so I'm really trying to focus on getting more stories out. I'm posting one today that's an older story, but it still is a great story. So you guys, we have a lot of stories. I just am not as good at getting them up there, and I know I need to do better so you guys can see the real results of people like Ro and Jim, and it's not just me, because we're all on a mission, and that mission is really to help you guys feel healthy again, for us to all have a better quality of life every day through a simple system that's just addressing what's wrong with our environment today. Um, Thank you, Jim. So you guys, it's time for me to hop off. I have meetings to get to. I will be back at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm not sure what I want to cover. Was there anything anybody wanted me to cover tomorrow about the system or about insulin resistance and what it's linked to? Is there something you're suffering with that you'd like me to cover tomorrow? I really love doing that. So if there is something, either message me or type it in now. We haven't talked about sleep apnea in a while. That's a big one for people. What else is up there? Liver problems, dementia. Okay. I love talking about the brain. So let's do neuropsychological disorders tomorrow, dementia, anxiety, depression, Alzheimer's, because that's huge with insulin resistance. So I'll put that on my list. We'll talk about dementia and everything related in the morning and how insulin resistance is causing those problems. Okay? Thank you for that, George. I really appreciate that. So I love when you guys give me a mission to talk about. Yeah, Carrie, it's pretty amazing. And I'll share some more of my story tomorrow about how I was suffering with a lot of those things. Just a clue. I used to try. I had my IQ tested and it was extremely high. I didn't realize that because I spent so much time in narcissistic abuse. And I was always very proud of how high functioning I was. And then with insulin resistance, that started to go away. And I would actually cry out of frustration because I felt like that was gone. One thing that I was really proud of was gone, and I have it back. So we're going to talk about that in the morning. Possible causal links to schizophrenia. Let me write that down because I had somebody ask. So I've covered, and I will cover all of this too if I can get everything done. You guys, I'm on fire now. I love it. But I've talked about the links to autism, and at first I used to take a lot of heat about it, but there are links with that. We'll go over that tomorrow. So autism, dementia, schizophrenia. Love it. Because you guys understand before I go today that your brain becomes resistant at the same rate as your body. So if you're having symptoms in your body, skin tags, dark skin patches, the distended gut, high blood pressure, your brain is feeling the same effects. And some of these things that we're talking about, there are huge links to all of those things and how they're exacerbated. We'll go over all of that tomorrow. I love that. I mean, I think the brain is probably my second favorite next to the heart. Yay, I'm excited. Yeah, it's very intriguing. So, and I do want to be clear about that. Jim said there is a correlation. Causation still needs to be proven, but it's intriguing, and I agree with that. So when I talk about these things, some of them are not, I'm not saying that it causes the disorder, but the more they look into insulin resistance, the more they're starting to understand that it's very highly linked. So with things like autism, there is a high correlation, and there is a link to causation, and we'll go over that tomorrow. So we'll also cover dementia and schizophrenia as well. And so we'll be back in the morning. We're going to talk about neurological disorders. Jim, it's always a pleasure to have you here. And Carrie, thank you so much for your interaction today. I'm so looking forward to you feeling better. And then you guys bring your questions tomorrow, and let's start covering these issues. By the way, before I hop off, if you know somebody who's suffering with any of those things, I don't have answers on schizophrenia, but we're going to bring them tomorrow. Any of those autistic, um, ADHD, anxiety, depression, all of that stuff, bipolar, those things, bring them tomorrow and let them listen and learn and hopefully find a healthier avenue to start addressing some of it. Okay? All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Thank you all for joining. I appreciate everyone you hopping in on my live today and really, really, I mean this from the bottom of my heart, gracing my life with your presence. You guys have no idea how much it means to me when you spend time with me, and I really appreciate you. Have a great day, everyone.